And in His time, He will allow that season to pass on. Got a pedestrian here waving. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm back up in the air today, and I was looking out over the landscape. I actually just got done filming another message. This time of year don't get many good flying days, and I'm trying to double or triple up on some messages when I get the opportunity to fly, and today is just a great day. I was thinking as I looked out how that the trees are starting to turn. It's that time of year, how that the leaves are starting to change colors, and it's now fall, and soon the weather will be getting pretty cold. It's already starting to get a little bit cold. But I was thinking about how that as the weather is changing and as the seasons are changing, and that reminded me how that sometimes in our life, spiritually speaking, seasons will change from one to another, and that's just kind of how life is. Just like with each year, you know, when spring comes, we expect certain things, and then we know summer's coming after spring, and then we know fall's coming after summer, and then winter. You know, it's just that's just how God has set creation up, and so we have learned to expect that. But oftentimes, at least myself speaking, is that when seasons of life change, sometimes it's not like seasons in this world, and sometimes it catches us off guard. Sometimes we don't expect it, I guess, the same way as we do physical seasons. And I got to thinking about how that it has been warm, it has been good weather, and those things are starting to change. But even with them changing, there is still beauty to be enjoyed in this time of year. I love this time of year. It's just so many good things about it. But I got to thinking about how that in a Christian's life, things will change and seasons will come and go, and I'm pretty sure I've even preached about that in a few messages before, or at least mentioned it. And I just was thinking about how that when those seasons change and when those things happen in our life, for us to be encouraged that is just how it is, and we shouldn't feel like that's an unnatural thing that's occurring, I guess, if that makes sense. A lot of times when we start going through something, or when we go into a season of, a lot of times, I guess, we like using the example of a storm, spiritual storms. I guess it really relates, and it really, I guess, just paints a good visual image there. And I was thinking about how that sometimes we go through spiritual storms, and seasons change, and we find ourselves going from things being good to sometimes very quickly things not being so great. And I was thinking about how that it wasn't too long ago, things seemed pretty great in my life. Not that they're ever bad, but things just seemed like they were going good. A lot of things were just falling into place. And then I found myself in a season of discouragement, a season of despair, honestly, and it was because of a few different things. It was definitely a trying time in my life as a Christian. And what I realized is, looking back at least, I didn't really realize it at the time completely, but that is just something that God used to grow me as a Christian. And I wouldn't say I'm completely out of that phase yet, but I'm definitely, I think, through the worst of it, if that makes sense. I was trying to think of maybe what I would preach about. Like I said, get another message done today. And that's what really just kind of popped in my mind, is that here I look out over all this beauty, but with that is a changing season. You know, if your life is changing, if maybe and it's not changing for the better, you know, it's easy to accept those seasons that are changing for the better. But you know, when seasons are changing for the worse, and when things just seem like they're getting worse, and the harder we try to be happy, and the harder we try to just do our Christian duty, it seems like the worse it gets sometimes. I would challenge you, and this is a hard challenge, but I would challenge you to just look for the beauty even in that time. I'm not going to say it's going to be beautiful in its entirety. You know, there's certain seasons we go through in the life that are not that beautiful because they're just they're tough, and there's a lesson, that God is trying to teach us in all of it. But that lesson isn't always fun, and that lesson isn't always beautiful, I guess, at least from our eyes. But just I would challenge you, kind of look for the silver lining. Look for the good, and look for the beauty even in those times of difficulty. And I'll leave you with this. Just as sure as that season come on your life, I promise you, if you'll stick it out and if you'll see it through, that season will pass. Sometimes those seasons stay for a long time. I think about Joseph when he was in the prison. He was in the prison for a long time down in Egypt. Sold as a slave, found himself there in Potiphar's house, then found himself down in the prison. And that was a long season in Joseph's life. But in almost an instant, Joseph went from being in the dungeon to being in the palace. And I believe there's something for us to see in that, is that sometimes, just as quickly as those seasons come on in our life, and just as quickly as those seasons just sweep us and overwhelm us and just cause us to be in a situation of despair, those situations can just as easily pass on. But what we have to do is we have to be faithful to stick it out, to allow God to do what He's trying to do, and to wait upon Him. And in His time, He will allow that season to pass on. Got a pedestrian here waving. Playing some disc golf or something. But just, I hope that's an encouragement to you. If you're going through a season right now that things are difficult, things are tough, things are not the way you want them to be, one, know that it's natural and you're not the only one that has ever went through that. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm trying to say that in an encouraging way, that know that you're not alone in this. And two, know that this thing will pass. It might be today, it might be tomorrow, it might be next week, it might even be next year. But those things will eventually pass, and you'll find yourself in a season that's more enjoyable once again. So, I don't know, just a little thought there. Hope that's an encouragement to you. Hope that's a blessing to you. May God bless you. Paramotor Preacher out.